So are you guys able to hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, yeah, thanks. So yesterday we discussed about like what is software and what is software testing, but today we are going to discuss in detail what is software and what are different types of softwares that we have. And first, it is very important to understand what is software and why do we need this testing, and what are the different principles of testing, and what are the stages of testing. So first we'll go through this, and then we'll be looking into the different factors of testing. Okay. So as we discussed, like software is a set of programs so that allows the user to perform well-defined functions or some specified or specific task. So so here we when we consider some set of domains here, okay, banking domain or hospital domain or logistics domain or insurance domain. So for this we have a specific requirements. Let us take like banking. Okay, so if you consider the banking as an example, so what are the functionalities of the banking? So banking would lend the loan, and they are going to perform some set of like deposits, credits, and we have like deposit machines, and it's a lot of software that they require. Okay, so what is the actual function of the banking? They have to provide some service to the customer. Okay, so to provide the service to the customer, they are going to have some set of mechanism wherein the customer would feel it easy and they would be happy to use it. Okay, for that they'll be coming up with some set of requirements. Okay, so those set of requirements will be transformed in the form of software. Okay, so it's kind of like they are going to write some programs to as kind of like we have a placeholders for this requirements wherein we are going to write some programs and we are going to fulfill the requirements of the customer, and it will be rolled out as like a software. So what are the different types of software that we have is like we have system software, application software, and malwares. Okay, so system software is like backbone of a computer system. So you can consider as like we have operating systems and we have a device drivers, and we have some set of utility programs. Then we have like a server software. So here, when you consider server software, every computer requires software. That is nothing but a basic operating system. Okay, so we have a lot of operating systems that we have like Windows, Linux, Mac systems, and Solaris systems. So these are the different operating systems wherein we are going to host our softwares. For example, if you want to draw something, so Paint is a software. Okay, so that is nothing but it's a application which has been designed to provide or draw something, or if you want to picturize something, or if you want to copy some images, so if you want to make some changes in the images, so you'll be using that software. So likewise, we have like Microsoft Excel, Microsoft Word. So these are the different softwares that we have. Okay. So next we have like, application softwares. Application software is designed to perform specific tasks or functions for the users. Okay. So here you can consider web browsers and specific softwares. For example, if we are going to book a ticket. So for this, flight booking also, what we do is like we are going to open this Make My Trip and we are going to provide our details. Then we are going to give the destination as well as like source and destination. So in that terms, what it does is like it's going to render you some information. That's nothing but the availability of the flights. So that is like kind of is what we have nowadays. Like directly we can book the tickets, and it's like fraction of seconds it would be done. Okay, so one click away. This all can be done with the help of like application softwares. Okay. So next we have like a malware. Malware is like the potential attack which will be done on the softwares. So it's kind of like it is also a kind of a software. Okay, so when we just load some file, for example .exe file, you need to double click on it, so all of a sudden your system may get crashed, or else any set of other viruses that would corrupt your software. So that's nothing but malwares that we have. Are you clear with this, guys? So we have different set of softwares and they have different set of requirements. So based on these requirements, they are going to design this. Yeah. So what is software testing? Okay, as we discussed yesterday, so it's a kind of a process. Okay. So what we do especially is like we are going to identify the defects and we are going to assess the quality, and we are going to ensure that requirements are like fulfilled as per the business. Okay, so here in terms of like definitions, you can see software testing is the process of evaluating the quality and functionality of the software application. Okay, so we are talking about the evaluating the quality, and then we'll be talking about like defects, and we'll be talking about like what are the specific requirements that we have to meet. Okay, so it says like it involves running the software system or application to identify any defects. Okay, so what is our main motto of software testing is to identify the defects, assess the quality, and then fulfill the business requirements. Okay, so what exactly the defect mean? So if we have a login page and we are trying to enter valid username and password, in terms of that, if we enter a valid username and password, when we click on submit, so what happens here is like it's going to just log into the expected results, like it should log into the application. But if it is not logging into the application and it is returning some error, so in certain cases what we say is like it's a defect. Okay, so which is not moving as expected. Okay, which is not working as expected. So that is nothing but defect. Okay, deviation from the expectations is called a defect. Okay, so most of the times in interviews they are going to ask you like what is bug, what is defect, what is issue. Okay, what is deviation? So all these terms replicate the same thing, like expected behavior. The functionality is not working as expected. Okay. Yeah. Do you have any questions, guys?
No, sir.
Okay. So the primary goal of software testing is to ensure that requirements meeting the requirements, okay, business requirements and expectations of the users. So it's not only the role that software testing would consider in assessing the quality or finding the defects or meeting the business requirements, but we have to wear a lot of hats. That we have to think like a customer. We have to, that's nothing but act like a customer. We have to act like a quality, and we have to act like a project manager. We have to act like a developer. So okay, there are a lot of hats that we have to wear when we are testing the application. Okay, it is not only in terms of assessing quality, identifying the defects, and meeting the business requirements, but we have other things. We can give advices, suggestions, and sometimes we can be stun on the developers. That's nothing but we should be harsh, because if something is not working as expected, and we have to be we have to be a little strict with them, and we have to follow the things, and we need to escalate them. Okay, so these are the few things that we have to keep in our mind when we are testing the application. Okay. So here we have a process for this. The software testing process typically involves several stages that we have, like we have test planning, design, and execution and reporting. Okay, so this we are going to discuss in detail. So this is called STLC, what we say, software testing life cycle. In this life cycle, we are going to have the different phases here. Okay, so first is like test planning. So in this test planning phase, what we do is like we are going to identify the objective and scope of the application. So let us consider if you are working for a particular organization and they only support the hospitality management. Let us take like, they are going to operate the hotel. So in certain cases, the scope of the testing would be limited to the hotels. Okay, hotels in the sense you have to understand the requirements of the particular business. Then you have to prepare a plan for testing. Okay, so customer would ask a lot of things. Okay, so customer would ask a lot of things. Let us take like, I'm just opening a page here. Okay, so here we have some requirements. So this requirements would say that 100 customers capacity. Okay, this is only for only the instance that I am giving you, the example. Open from 10 a.m. Avail discounts. Corporate discounts. Next, we have some Okay, just to understand with the real-time environment that I'm just taking up this hospital application. Okay, so happy hours. Okay, so these are the few requirements that we got from the customer, and we need to design a software so that the users can use it and book the and use or they can use all the set of you know, we can just all the set of requirements that has like are the facilities, okay, or the facilities given by the service provider. Okay, so who is the service provider here? The hotel is like service provider to the customer, and this hotel, let us we are designing application for the Taj hotels. Okay, so Taj hotels are like number one hotels in Asia. So here you can see the Taj hotels has got a detailed requirement, and this requirements is given to some company called TCS, and TCS would be designing the software for the Taj hotels. Okay, so now who are the users of it? Users would be like Taj hotels and customers. Okay, so customers of the hotels. So what exactly this Taj hotels would be doing it? So who is the customer for TCS? So Taj hotels are the customers for the TCS. Okay, because they have the requirements, and these requirements are given to TCS, and TCS is working on them to fulfill their requirements. So what are the requirements? These are the requirements. Okay, and this Taj hotel is like they are providing some interfaces to the users, so users can book them, like they can use this application and they can book it online. Okay, so they have the applications like mobile applications, or they have the applications of the web applications. So web applications, they can just log into the web applications and they can book for the they can book the table, and they can have all this discounts are okay. So based on the some disclaimers. Okay, so conditions would be given by the Taj hotels. So not what exactly how the chain would be happening here is like, see, so Taj Hotel has got some requirements here. These requirements are fulfilled by the TCS. That's nothing but they are going to work on it, and they are going to follow certain strategies. Like they have some strategies, we can call them as like company strategies. Okay, so here they may say that we are going to use the latest application, latest technologies. This technologies would be like sometimes it could be .NET, sometimes it could be Java, Python. Okay, so etc. So these are the technologies that we are going to use. Okay, so apart from this, we have a business technologies. Let us like these are like business technologies. If I consider as like UIs, so there we have like HTML, React.js, so AngularJS, EXE.js, Telrik. Okay, so these are the different technologies they are going to work as part of like a UI. So let us take backends where they are going to use SQL Server and Oracle, or from MongoDB. Okay, they are MongoDB. Okay, so this is nothing but technology stack they are going to use according to the company strategies. Okay, so now customer may ask you like, I want rich interface, and I want to, have the less maintenance, or else like, I'm going to only code. Or in the MOS, they are going to decide about like the budget they have, and like, this should be rolled out in this many months. So these are the different strategies that customer might come up. Okay, so they have like different requirements and different strategies wherein that should be fulfilled by the companies. But as per the companies, like we should look into it, right? So you see that a lot of requirements will be given in you may see that company is offering this much salary for this technology stacks, and also that is not because of the requirement of the companies, but that is the requirement of the customers actually. Okay, so customers every time they want a new requirements, and company for that they are going to searching for the professionals or resources. Okay, for example, you see that a lot of boom which has come for the testing is because of the automation. Okay, so now they want to reduce the manual intervention so that they can use these automation scripts every time when we want to roll out for the regression. Okay, regression is nothing but is kind of like a group of test cases that we are going to execute whenever we want to release. Release is kind of like what happens is like here developer develop the code, they are going to deploy in the sense after completing everything, they are going to deploy it, we test it, and then we are going to roll it to the release, roll out as the releases. Okay, that's nothing but we are giving this interface as a application to the customers. Okay, so all this sort of things should be done, but there is like a lot of things which will be done as like behind the scenes. So we just talk about like releases, requirements, or developments, and I'm like identifying defects, all these things, but behind the scene there are a lot of things which will happen. Okay, so there will be a deal with the customer. We are going to talk about the requirements and number of resources that we need, and how much time it would take, and how many technology stacks that we have to use. So all these things will be considered before initiating any sort of relationship between the customer and the software companies. Okay, so customer, now you can say, now we can take like Taj Hotels as customers to the TCS. Okay, so we have a lot of things like we consider MOUs, SOWs, and then we have like SLS. Okay, so these are the different terms that we use, and we are going to discuss about it when we are talking about the requirements. Okay, but now as we consider, like we have some set of requirements, and we need to consider our company strategies. Okay, whether we are able to fulfill the requirements along with the there are other company strategies. If we are aligned with them, then we can go ahead with that. Otherwise, we can just deny those. Okay. So in this case, what we try to do is like we have to go with the scope. Okay, objective and scope of it. Okay, what exactly we have to test. Okay, what are the inputs for the testing to consider the test plan. Okay, so here let us take, we need to have some business requirements. Okay, so business requirements are like, we call them as like a business requirement specifications, BRS. And after that, we should have some FRS, functional requirement specifications, and then software requirement specifications. These are the different documents that we should have. And based on these documents, we are going to prepare the test plan. So in test plan, we consider the objective, scope, and we have like entry criteria, and we have like, potential risk, and then what are the technologies that we are using as part of automating the application. And for the manual testing, what are the tools that we are using, and how many professionals would be required, and what are the potential threats from the professionals. Even sometimes we see that we have committed with some company, and that's nothing but the customer, and the company would be hiring you, and all of a sudden if you leave the company, okay, so the requirements are like given to, and you started working on it, and so you got a good opportunity and you left the company. Okay, so that is nothing but it's a potential threat from the professionals. Okay, so all these things should be considered. Okay, we should plan accordingly so that we have to fulfill our requirements. Okay, all these things should be considered as part of test planning. So next is like test design. Okay, so this involves creating a test plan and developing the test cases and scenarios to evaluate the software functionality and performance. So in test design, we'll be taking the test basis. What we call is like test bases are like documents that we get from the customer, and these documents will be truly analyzed by the business analyst. So business analysts are a group of people. They are going to communicate with the customer, because they have a fair communication with the customer, and they would understand the terminology that customer is using, and they would suggest customer like these are the things would definitely benefit your business. So that is the role of the business analyst. So once we get the documents from the business analyst, so we are going to start writing the test conditions or test scenarios. Okay, so test scenarios are like high level test cases. So just to say that if you want to test an application, let us take, I want to test the login page. So what we do is like we are going to just write a test scenario saying that validate login page. Okay, so inside that there are a lot of things. Okay, so there should be username, password, and submit button. So in that username, you have to enter valid username, valid password, then click on submit. So these are the test cases that we are deriving from the test scenarios or test conditions. Okay, so this is the next phase, and the other phase is like test execution. So now there is a software which is designed by the developers, and it is ready for testing. Okay, so ready for testing. Now it is ready to hit the testing. In that case, what we do is like we have to take this test cases, what we have written, and those test cases should be executed against the application. Okay, so test execution phase is like running your test cases and identifying the defects. Okay, so if you have any defects, this is not working as per the expected results. Okay, so we are expecting something and it's not working as expected. So in that case, what we do is like we are going to raise the defects. So this is like here you can see test reporting. This involves documenting the test results and providing feedback to the development team on any issues identified during the testing. So this is the next phase, is kind of like test reporting phase. So here what we do is like we are going to execute our test cases and then we are going to report them. So what are the things that we consider as part of reporting the defect is like that we'll take separately, because there are a lot of things that we have to consider. We have to follow the steps that we have identified the issue. That's nothing but we have followed some steps to reproduce it. We have to add the evidences and we have to give the detailed information about the defect and considering the version, and if it is the first time that we are reporting or it's already reported. So all these things should be taken into consideration when we are reporting the defect. So these are the different stages and phases that we follow as part of software testing. Okay, so I'll repeat it again. So we have test planning. Here we are going to do the detailed planning based on the like we have to identify the objects and scopes based on the requirements. So next is like test design. Here we are going to derive the test scenarios based on the requirements. Okay, so those can be like documents, business requirements, functional requirement, and software requirement specifications. So these are the documents that we are going to take it as like a test base and we are going to derive the test conditions. So after that, we are going to have this test execution phase wherein the application is ready for testing. So here we are going to execute our test cases and find the defects. Okay, so our motto of software testing is to identify the defect and get them fixed. And second is like we have to assess the quality of the application. And third is like we have to fulfill the business requirements. Okay, so these are the three strategies of the software testing. And test reporting, here you can see once we identify the defects, then we are going to report it and we are going to add the evidences which are required for the getting an idea for the developer. Okay, developer would be just they are going to look into this defect and they are going to fix it. Okay, so these are the 4 phases that we have, and rest of the phases I'll discuss in detail. So when we talk about like SDLC and STLC. Okay, so then we have evaluating exit criteria and entry criteria. So we have to have some entry criteria and exit criteria. Okay, so this is more than enough for you guys when you talk about something like if they ask about like STLC, then you can explain this in detail. Like these are the phases that we follow as part of our testing. Do you have any doubts, guys?
No,
No, sir.
Yeah, thank you. So now how to perform software testing? Okay, software testing can be performed manual or using the automated tools and techniques. So manual testing is like kind of we have written some test cases and we will be going through one after the other test case, and then it's like manually we are going to log into the application and we enter user and password, submit and follow the test cases that we have given as part of execution. Okay, so automated testing is like, as we know that we have a lot of tools which are available in the market. And for example, you can see UFT, Selenium, Playwright, Eggplant. So there are a lot of test tools which are available in the market. But accordingly, what is your requirement and what is the budget of the project and what is the skill set or technical stack that professional has? So all these things we have to consider. Then we can pick up the testing tools. Okay, so there we have to do some set of POCs. So based on that POCs, that's the name of pilot projects. Okay, so whether this particular tool suits our application or not, so that we have to consider whenever we start with the application testing in terms of automation. Okay, manually it's not required. Manually is like that the professional would know about the application and he has to follow the test cases, and that test cases will be executed against the application. Okay, so there are other factors that we have to consider. So which we call it as like, functional testing, non-functional testing. In this non-functional testing, we have performance testing, security testing, usability testing. Okay, so these are like non-functional. Functional testing are like, what exactly application has to do. Okay, and non-functional testing is like how the other things are impacting the application. Okay, how the other things are affecting the application. Let us take like functional testing. Okay, so what is your functional testing when we talk about the hotel management or some set of hospitality management, hotel management, or banking applications? So if I take about the banking applications, so what is the requirement of the application here? So I log into the application, like, banking application, username, password is given, click on submit, and then I'm going to validate, like, verify my amount in the bank. And then I'm going to transfer that amount to some X person. Okay. So this is nothing but functional thing. Okay. Functional. So non-functional is like I entered username, password, clicked on submit. Now, when I click on submit, it takes like, 20 minutes to load the application. Let us take it's taking 20 minutes to load the home page. So this is nothing but it is impacting. It's kind of like a impact on the application indirectly. That's nothing but it's not working as expected. It's working as expected, but it's not working as expected in terms of performance testing. Okay, performance. Okay, not performance testing, performance. So here when we call about the performance, there are two things. Okay, one is like load, another one is like stress. Okay, so load is like, for example, you got a threat like, Axis Bank is closing tomorrow. Okay, you got the information and everybody is logging into the application and they are trying to withdraw the amount from that particular bank and they want to transfer their amount from one bank to the other bank. Okay, so in certain cases what happens is like people get panic and they log into the application and they try to access the information of their account, and that's nothing but it's putting a lot of load on the Axis Bank servers. Okay, in terms of this, what happens is like there would be a performance issue. Okay, so it will take a lot of time to load the application, or else it is sometimes it will break. The request that you are sending will not be accepted by the server and it's not responding. Okay, so these all issues will come as part of like performance testing. And security testing would be kind of security threats. For example, if you log into the application with username and password, valid username and password, and you are redirected to some other application. Okay, so this would happen. Okay, so this is like cyber attacks. Generally, there would be hackers. What they do is like they are going to redivert those redirecting those calls actually. Okay, so when we make request to the server, they are going to take hold on the server. They'll have the hold on the server. Then what they do is like they are going to redirect your request to some other server. Okay, some other server in the sense their servers. So what they do is like they are going to take your username and password, they access your accounts, and they are going to steal money from your bank account. So this is like cyber attack. So to avoid the cyber attacks, we have to conduct this security testing. Okay, so usability testing is like how application is like how user friendly to the user, and what is the content that is displayed on the web page, and how it is like when we consider it as a normal person, we would see anything would be like clearly visible. But there are a lot of things that we have to consider when we are testing the application. Okay, usability testing is like look and feel of the application. There could be like sometimes we see that people with the color blindness and the font sizes and something like they have to have some catches. Okay, so for example, you see banking applications, when you just log into the application, you'll see some pop-ups. Okay, pop-ups in the sense that kind of like they are providing some loans, or you have this discounts, or you got the reward points. This is nothing but it's kind of like catching. Okay, catching the attention of the customer. So these all things are like usability. So this usability testing would be considered basically on the different requirements. These are like kind of non-functional testing. Okay, so performance testing, security testing, usability testing, scalability, and maintainability. These are the different non-functional aspects. Okay, so when we consider software testing, it's not only the functional, we have a non-functional testing also. Okay, so and what is the how do we conduct the testing? So we have manual and automation. Okay, so for manual, we have to just follow our test cases in line by line, like one after the other, and we have to execute manually. For automation testing is like we have to use some tools, and we have to assess whether the tool is compatible with the application or not. After that, we are going to start using that application, using that tool, and we are going to write some scripts, and then we are going to execute them against the application. Okay, so are you clear with this, guys?
Yes, sir. I have
Yes, sir.
one question. This is performance testing and load testing, both are same.
In performance testing, we have two verticals. One is load testing, another one is stress testing. So performance testing is like we are going to evaluate. Load testing is like, see, for example, if there are like, people, let us take you got some results. You want to validate your results. So what you do is like, there are like, thousands of people that would be accessing the application. So in terms of this, it was like, way back in a decade ago, it used to happen. Now it's like servers where they are very smart enough to handle the load. But there we used to see that, when you click on the center and it would take a long time to get the results. That's nothing but load testing. For example, you're getting the results and like people are logging into the application and they are trying to access their accounts or they are trying to access their results. So in that case, what exactly the server would do is like, it will decline few of the requests. Okay. So if you have the request, that's nothing but it's not capable enough to handle the load. Okay.
Yes, sir.
So another thing is like stress testing is like intentionally we are putting a lot of stress on the application. We want to see that where exactly this application would break. Okay. So we had like limit only 50,000 users it can access. Okay. 50,000 requests it can complete. I mean like it can accept. But after the 50,000, let us take like I'm just putting few more thousands of requests. Now what happens is like it should crash at that peak time. Okay, that's nothing but stress testing. We want to see that where exactly the application would break or it's kind of like peak request that it can accept. So that is the difference between this load and stress. So which will consider which will come under the umbrella of performance testing.
Thank you.
So next we'll see about like what are principles of software testing. So we have altogether like 12 principles, like 8 principles. So these principles are very important to understand, and as a software tester, it is recommended to have these principles in your mind whenever you are testing the application. Okay, so whether it is manual, automation, functional or non-functional. Okay, so this is very important to understand principles of software testing. So testing shows the presence of defects. So yesterday we talked about like 100% defect free. That is not true. Okay, as a principle of software testing, testing shows the presence of defects. The purpose of testing is to identify defects and errors in the software application and to verify that it meets the requirements and specifications. So every application have the defects. Okay, every application have the defect before testing and after testing. But what is the principle of software testing says like testing shows the presence of defects. Okay, so when you are testing an application, your motto should be like identifying the defects first. Okay, so identifying the defect first. The purpose of testing is to identify the defect and errors in the software application. And the other thing is like you have to report it and you should get it fixed immediately. Okay, so based on the availability of the development. So this is the first principle of software testing. Next is like exhaustive testing is impossible. Okay, exhaustive testing is impossible. Let us consider an example. So here, I have a web page. In this web page, I have username. I'm just writing username. Okay, so uname. And let me take it as like a first name, last name, then address, then we have location, then we have like population graph. Just I want to identify like number of populations in the countries. Okay, so population graph, then geographic area of that country. Okay, so what is the requirement of first name? Like first name should have minimum of 10 characters and maximum of 200 characters. Okay, so last name is the same thing, minimum of 10 characters and maximum of 200 characters. Address will have like minimum of 500 characters, and let us take like I'll take 50. 500 is too insane. So here I'll take like some 1000 characters. Location would be like so it could be of minimum of 20,000, and country would be like minimum of 3 and 10. So geography, this is like population graph. So graph would be like you cannot measure the graph, so I'm just leaving it as like count, a percentage of population. So it's going to populate the percentage of population. So geographical area is also kind of like it is a based on the country. When you select the country, it's going to populate this geographic area. Okay, so it can be of minimum of some length. Let us take like we are going to take it 300 to some 1000. Okay, so now how do we test this application? For example, if you have to test the application, what do we do? Okay, so there is another technique, another thing. When we talk about the techniques, I'm going to talk about few techniques that we are going to use as part of like equivalence partitioning and boundary value analysis. Okay, so then we have like table activities, and after that we have a use case and seamlines. Okay, these are the different set of techniques that we are going to use to write the test cases. But in general, when you see that customer asks you to test everything, okay, customer asks you to test everything. So now if I consider the minimum length, like I start with 10, then I'll take 11, then I'll take 12, then I'll take 13, then I'll take 14. Okay, now we consider like how many sets of data that we have here is like from 10 to 200. Let's say 190. Okay, 190 sets of test cases for the only for testing the first name, and second is like 190. Okay, third is like we have, let us take like we have 950. Then we have like some 980. Okay, so then we have here 7. Okay, then after we have population percentages, we are talking about like we are take 100%, and then from here we are going to do the 700 sets of data. Now you see that exhaustive testing, what exhaustive testing says, like exhaustive testing is like test everything. Okay, test everything. Now you consider the combination. Okay, so here only first name will have the combination of like 190 cases. Like we start from the characters from 10 to 200. First we are going to put 10 characters, then 11 characters, then 12 characters, then 13 characters, then likewise we'll go till 200 characters. Okay, if you start testing like this, we have to roll out this application, or else we have to complete this complete the testing of this application in 10 days. Okay, 10 days with 2 resources. Okay, 2 professionals are working on it. So now you consider how much time it would take to complete this. Let us take, we have this many sets of test cases. Okay, 190 altogether we have. If you consider, there would be like 2,500 or more than 3,000 test cases are there. Is it possible to complete this 3,000 test cases by 2 professionals in 10 days? Consider how many test cases they have to execute per day. They have to execute around like 300 or 400 test cases per day. And now consider if they found like 10 or for every 100 test cases they are finding 25 issues. Okay, now consider 2 person. Okay, and at the same ratio you see that there are like 50 issues are identified by 2 people. Okay, 2 people. So now you consider how many issues that we have and how many test cases that we have to execute, and what is the buffer time that is given to us. So all this is nothing but exhaustive testing. Testing completely is not possible. So for this, what we have to do is like we have to use some set of techniques. So that here in this principle, it says like exhaustive testing is impossible. Okay, we cannot test everything in the application, but we have to use our intuitiveness and the ideas of testing the application. That is nothing but we have to use the techniques and we have to write test cases carefully. Okay, so it is possible here. It says like it is impossible to test every possible scenario or combination of inputs and conditions. So testing effort should focus on identifying the most critical and high risk areas. Okay, so here comes the factor of luck. Otherwise we can say that considerations of priorities and severities. Okay, priorities and severities. We have to take the priority. Okay, priority in the sense, what are the critical areas? Okay, what are the critical areas and high risk areas? So we have to consider them and we have to test them. Okay, so and this is like, exhaustive testing is not possible generally. When we talk about like, huge set of applications, some set of applications we have like, few requirements. In that case we can test everything. Okay, again it is like, we have to consider the time factor also. Okay, so time limit and what is the essence of like, testing, whether it is like suitable or not suitable, all these things we have to consider. Okay, but the thing is like, when we talk about like exhaustive testing is impossible, we are here, it says like we have to consider most critical and high risk areas. Okay, apart from this we can, those can be like negligible issues. Next is like early testing saves time and money. So when we consider about like, SDLCs or the traditional approaches, there we used to have like, first we have requirement phase analysis, then we design the application, then after development would be done, then testing would come. Okay, so when do we find the issues? When we start testing the application. Okay, but it is not the principle of software that we have. The principle of software says that early testing would save your time, because when we have some requirements written by the customer, or business requirements they derive from the customers, there if we go and testers should be involved, that's nothing but it says like, testing should be involved from the initial phases itself. So what happens is like, we can just go through the application or requirements, and then we can identify the issues. Okay, so there we can save the time, because it will not flow into the design, it will not flow into the development. So it again, we need not to go and test that same set of defects in the testing. So we have got that issue in the requirement. So it says like early testing saves time and money. So testing should be integrated into the software development process from the earliest stage. Okay, to identify and address the defects as early as possible, which can save time and reduce cost. So this, it says like early testing saves time and money. So this is the third principle. So defect clustering, this is kind of very like, generic thing which would happen in any software developments. Okay, so defect tend to cluster in certain areas of the software application or system, such as modules or components that are complex or frequently updated. So when you see any disk, I think most of you guys know about the CD, right? So compact disk that we have, like, clusters are nothing but it's kind of like a circles that we have. So here it says like, if you have hundreds of modules is like, let me take an example here in the point, I'll show you. So it's kind of like a clusters. Okay, so here we have this is big module. So inside that we have another module. Okay, module in the sense, just I'm talking about like pages. Okay, submenus are pages. So let us take, this is a home page. So inside that we have something, this is home page. This is account details page. And this is your some balance page. Okay, so here what it says like defect clustering. So here you may find some defects, and here you may find some defects, and here you may find some defects. Okay, so one module may have like, module 1 may have like some 2 defects, and module 2 will have 4 defects, and module 3 may have some 3 defects. So what is the, so when we look into the module wise, we see that less number of defects. Okay, module 1 will have only 2 defects, module 2 will have 4 defects, and module 3 has like 3 defects. But when we completely look at this particular application, okay, when we completely look at this particular application, you see that 2 plus 4 plus 3. So altogether, how many defects that we have here? Like 6 plus 3, 9 defects are there. Okay, so defect clustering, what it says like, see, defects tend to cluster in certain areas of the software application or system, such as modules or components that are complex and frequently updated. Okay, so it says like when we look into the application at the whole, you'll find a lot of defects. And when we look into the application as a component wise, there we have like individual defects. But defect clustering defines that we have a defects in each and every module. Okay, so we have to be cautious about the modules which are frequently updated and which are recently developed as a components. Okay, so that is the reason why what we call is like defect clustering. Are you clear with this, guys? So these are the few four principles of software testing. So let's get into the few more principles. Pesticide paradox. Okay, repeating the same test with the same inputs can lead to the same defects being identified repeatedly. So software testing strategies should be regularly reviewed and updated. Okay, for example, we have designed application, and in that application we have written some 100 test cases, and we found some issues. Okay, so some 10 issues are 10 issues that we have found. Now, at the next releases in the sense a few more functionalities have been added, but we did not update our test cases. Okay, we did not update our test cases. In certain cases, what happens is like we are going to test the repeated test case. That's the thing, but we are going to execute our test cases which are already executed. If you try to execute them repeatedly, you don't find any issues. Okay, if you don't update your test cases, then what happens is like you are going to miss the issues which are being identified the newer functionalities. So that it says like pesticide paradox is like it is not a good practice to execute same set of test cases again and again. We have to enhance those test cases. Okay, so we have to enhance those test cases and we have to keep updating our test cases every time any issues or any newer functionalities are added to the software. Okay, so next is like testing is context dependent. Testing strategies and techniques should be adapted to the specific context and requirement of software applications or system being tested. So here it is like
Sir,
testing.
excuse me.
Yep.
An example for pesticide paradox.
Yeah, pesticide paradox, you see, for example, if you have, let me take an example here. You see that this admin page is already designed. Okay, so all the requirements that you have written as a test cases and you executed them and you found some issues and it's working fine. So tomorrow, let us take, there are some things which have been added here. Okay, so instead of add, they have given like, create, and they have added some set of buttons here. Okay, create, update, delete, edit. Okay, instead of this icons, they are going to add some set of buttons here itself. When you click the record, you can able to just click on it and you can update the details. Okay, so but the thing is like we did not write any set of test cases for this set of newer requirements, and we are trying to execute same set of test cases again and again on this particular web page. But finally what happens is like customer just he clicked on this update button and he could see that there is an error message which is reported. Okay, it's not allowing a user to enter the or update the particular record. So in certain cases, what happens is like it's kind of like a big miss that we did not test it. Okay, the reason is like pesticide paradox. Pesticide paradox says like if you try to execute same set of test cases, ignoring the newer functionalities or fault fixes. Okay, so it says like if you try to execute same set of test cases which are already passing, there is no matter of testing that application. Okay, there is no, it doesn't make any sense of testing that application. So that is the reason it says like we have to update our test cases regularly and we should have some strategies for that. Okay, it's nothing but we have to be very careful when we are rolling out any set of applications after testing. Okay, so it simply says that we have to add or enhance the existing test cases.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Yeah. So next is like testing is context dependent. So here testing strategies and the techniques should be adopted. So the specific context and requirements of the software applications are system being tested. Okay. So here what it says like, it should be a context dependent. So when you are testing any banking application, what is your context on that? So you should have a domain knowledge. So this is what we were discussing yesterday, right? So why do they need domain knowledge on this? So if you are testing any applications, you should have a domain knowledge because you can understand the terminology as well as the functionality of that particular application. Okay. So when you are testing any logistics domain, you should have, you need to understand how this tracking would be done and what are the, if you take like Amazon is like, they have lot of things. Okay. That's nothing, but they have a delivery mechanism and they are pickup mechanism and they are going to give the estimation period for that and tracking of that particular product or providing the invoices for this. All these things is like related to the logistics. When we talk about the banking application, let us take retail banks. Retail banks are like Axis banks and ICICI banks. Okay, so what are the functionality of these banks? So we have like maintaining the customer account details, providing the balances, deposits, credits, debits, credit cards. Everything will be like kind of a requirements that we have. So whenever we are testing any application, we should look at the context of that particular application. So it says like we should have a domain knowledge. So next is like absence of error fallacy. Okay, the absence of defects in a particular area of the software applications are system does not guarantee the absence of defects in the other areas are under different conditions. Okay, so here absence of error fallacy says like there are certain defects which would be uncovered. Okay, so if you don't find that defect, it may hide the another defect. Okay, so for example, every time you are using, there could be whenever we are using the application, there are a lot of things. Okay, so we recently found a defect here. So when we are trying to test the application in terms of security, okay, security is like we have a requirement. I'll give the real-time example here. So we have some set of access permissions. Okay, full, read-only, and none. Okay, so full defines like user can read, write, and delete. Okay, read, write, and delete. So here read only in the sense only read. Here none in the sense it's not visible. Okay, so user cannot see, is not visible, not displayed, otherwise not displayed. Okay, so every time what we used to do is like in case of read only, we used to check for the icons here. Okay, some icons are displayed. We have a requirement here. So if this is a record, let us take, I'm taking this as a record. Okay, so if user has a full access, then he can like have this icons. Okay, so icons is like this time putting it here. Yeah, he can add the record and he can edit the record, edit the record, and he can delete the record. Okay, these are the three things that will be available for the user when he has a full access. Okay, but in case of read only, okay, user can only just view it. Let us take view is the access. Okay, so what happened is like the guy who joined as like a new resource to our team, and we have been testing this application for past 3 years now. Okay, so what he did is like he just looked into this and he thought like read only actions, and his attitude is like go and directly click on this record, double click on that record. Okay, well what we do generally is what we used to do is like we just used to go and check that whether we have this icons displayed on the page or not. Okay, after that we'll close that. Okay, that is working as expected. But what it does is like it just went and double clicked on it, so it opened the pop-up. It opened the pop-up and now the user is able to edit that. Okay, so that is nothing but absence of error fallacy. Here what is happening is like every time we have attitude of only testing with certain attitude. Okay, attitude in the sense we'll just go and see that and we did not do any set of operations for that. But absence of error fallacy, it says like if something is like not covered, not uncovered. Okay, so it's kind of like we are trying to, so here we are trying to identify the defect, but we are not exactly checking it like, there are other defects which are heading under that particular defect. Okay, so it says like absence of error fallacy is like if you don't identify the defects and this defects will be flowed like, it's going to discover the new defects. Yeah, so this is like one example. And so next is like testing is a creative and challenging task. So here we have to be very much intuitive, and the other thing is like we should be very much creative, and we should write the smarter test cases so that we can identify the defects. Okay, so we should have a creative thinking and critical thinking. So we should have every time we should have a question of like, why is it working and how is it working and why is it working in this way? Okay, so it's kind of like we should have why, how, what, who. So these are the questions that we should have every time in our mind. And we should have an attitude of breaking the application. We should not see that it is working. Okay, so we cannot say that if it is working in the scenario, and we should not be happy with that. So we should have an attitude of breaking the application. We need to see that why this application is working in this way. Okay, so why can't this way? Okay, so these are the few things that we have to consider. So these are the principles, guys. So I'm going to share this slide with you. So please look into this and come up with questions if you have anything. Okay, so tomorrow we'll be discussing about like SDLC, so software development lifecycle, and what are the different types of software development lifecycle that we have. So tomorrow, okay. So after that, we'll be discussing about SDLC in detail. So software development, software testing lifecycle. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Do you have any questions for me, guys?
No, sir. No, sir.
Okay.
So that recording is
please provide me this note, sir.
Yeah, this I'm going to give it. Don't worry. I'm going to share the slides with you. And this I'm not sure. Let me show you. Yeah, your recording will be available